Hey everyone, welcome to Focus Friday. I am your host, Dan Mickle, and we are brought to you by Soul Performance Academy. Check them out at soulperformanceacademy.com. Focus Friday is our weekly vlog that is helping to create conversations in the coaching and the education spaces. And this week we are talking about what is your plan? And I think a lot of times we go into a season or a semester and we have this big master plan of what we want to do, how we want it to flow, but do we actually break it down daily? Do you as a coach take the time to actually plan out your daily practices? And I think a lot of times we get in the habit, especially later in the season, where we start winging it, right? Either things are going according to the big plan or things have kind of gone off the rails a little bit, so we just start winging it. And one of the first things that we do is start to minimize our planning. So we want to look at what is our plan? How are you planning? Are you planning with data? And do you plan for adapting when things don't go right in practice? Or are you just saying, okay, we're going to go in and we're going to do this. We're going to work on skill 1 and 2, and that's that. Or do you actually look at the data and say, okay, this is really what we need to work on, not what I feel we need to work on. And then how do you build in to adapt if things aren't working in those practices? How do you change games or drills or your teaching method when there's challenges, when unexpected things come up? Do you actually think about that when you're planning and having your plan? Secondly, what do you plan for? Do you plan down to the last minute? Now, that's not to say that we don't adjust it and go off that timeline, but do you find yourself often leaving big chunks of time in your daily practice or teaching plans where you don't have anything happening? Nothing's really accountable. It's just a blank space. We'll figure it out. Because you want to take that time and plan down to the minute. Have that plan the whole way down the minute. Plan the water breaks. Plan the brain breaks. Plan, the getting up and just stretching to clear your minds. Again, you can go off of that timeline. We're not saying that you absolutely have to stick to it, but having that plan and having that timeline is going to help you be more efficient and keep you on task. And also help you those times that you're just not sure, well, should I stay on this or should I move and do something different? Your timeline is going to help you out in that part. Next is a big one. Do you actually rehearse your plan? Now, I'm not going to say you're going to go into the empty gym and set things up and run through it that sense, but do you actually go through and look at your plan and think about, okay, where is this going to be challenged? What logistically isn't going to work? Oh, I have us doing this drill and then going to that drill, but I forgot we're going to have to move this around, or we're going to need this equipment and I forgot to get it out. If you kind of rehearse your plan and go through it, even if you're just sitting at your desk and once you write it out, go through that plan, you'll say, oh, I forgot that we're going to need this equipment. So we want to make sure that we get that out right away and have it ready to go by the court or the field. Or we're going to need these supplies for the classroom. And I forgot it's going to take time to get them out of the cabinets and have the kids go and do it. So take that time to practice and review your plan and see if there's going to be any hiccups or roadblocks along the way. And that'll make the practice run more efficiently and smoother for you for the whole day. And then lastly, do you video your practices? And your teaching. And this is a huge one because it's a great way to help you reflect not only on how your team or your students or whoever you're involved with performed, but how did you perform as the coach or the teacher? Video is a great way to kind of look back and get that reflection and get that feedback. And I think too many times we don't do it. We just think that we're coaching well, or we think that things are going smooth, but we don't get to see the big picture because we're kind of caught in that moment. And video is a great way to kind of go back and say, oh, we could have done this a little bit better in practice, or I wasn't prepared for this, or you're focused on one player or one student and you don't see the big picture of what else is happening on the court or the field. And the video is a great way for you to kind of look at that and say, oh yeah, I didn't even notice this was going on, or this is an unintended consequence of what we're doing, so how can I fix that? So video is a great way to review and reflect how effective your training methods are, and plus where you need to work on, or to see if your students or your players are actually comprehending and putting into action what you're actually coaching or working on. So again, this week's lesson is, do you have a plan? How do you make up your plan? Are you just walking into the classroom? Are you just walking into the gym and winging it? Having that big broad strokes, well, this is what we need to work on. Or are you actually planning it out for the whole session and putting thought into it? So do we plan with data, or are we just going with our gut and feelings? And do we plan for adapting? How do I need to change things on the fly? Maybe someone's out, maybe someone's sick. I have to plan for that. Plan down to the last minute. Okay, again, you can go off of that timeline. You don't have to stick to it, but you should have it planned down to help you on track, to make sure you're efficient, to make sure going from one skill to another skill is the most efficient and it's relevant to how you're learning. Rehearse and revise. Go through that. Okay, is this going to be a problem? And if it is, how can I adjust it? So don't wait until the first time you're actually going through that plan is when you're doing it with the team or in the classroom. Go through it a few times, in your mind at your desk after you figure it out, and see where you might have some problems. And then lastly, videotape and record so that you can review later and look at what you could do better, maybe what you need to change so that your team gets what they need. All right, so that's today's Focus Friday. I will see you next week for our next topic, but good luck and have a good day planning your next practice or lesson.